Welcome to the debate between Tainan's Girls High School and Taipei First Girls High School. The proposition for today's debate is that the Taiwan government should abolish the death penalty. For the debaters, rules for timing your speech are as follows. When there are 30 seconds left, you'll hear one short ring. When time is up, you'll hear two short rings. And when it's 30 seconds into the extension, you'll hear a long ring. And upon hearing that, you have to stop your speech. And rules for timing your cross-examination are, when there are 30 seconds left, you'll hear one short ring. When time is up, you'll hear two short rings. And upon hearing that, you have to stop your cross-examination.
Each team needs to prepare evidence cards for cross-examination. Any evidence cited during the debate should have a corresponding evidence card, which may be reviewed upon request by the cross-examiner and their teammates. The cards need to be returned at the end of the constructive speech following the cross-examination. For the audience, please turn off your cell phone or turn it to the vibration mode. When the debate is still in progress, please do not chat or use flash while taking pictures. Thank you.
All right. Clap for our helpers 3 times. They did it really well. All right.
First, affirmative constructive speech, 4 minutes.
Good afternoon, everyone. The death penalty has long been one of the most debated upon and controversial of punishments. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines the death penalty as execution imposed in a court of law as punishment for a crime, and defines abolish as to officially end or stop something, such as a law. Thus, today's motion is clear: to formally annul the death penalty from Taiwan's law system. As the affirmative speaker in this debate, I will first state the reasons why the government should abolish the death penalty, before giving a brief description of a plan that the second affirmative speaker will further elaborate on. Firstly, it is clear that the death penalty is a direct violation of the statement "everyone has a right to life" in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. In 2009, Taiwan passed 2 covenants, the ICCPR and the ICESC, in which the ICCPR clearly states in Article 6 that every human being has an inherent right to life. This right shall be protected by law. Although Taiwan's ratification was denied, the Act to implement the 2 covenants states that the human rights protection provisions in the 2 covenants have domestic legal status. Therefore, Article 6 of the ICCPR should still be implemented. Secondly, one of the reasons for the establishment of the death penalty is to prevent crime. However, according to statistics provided by the Criminal Investigation Bureau, between 2006 to 2009, when executions were not carried out in Taiwan, the crime rate decreased by 26%, while between 2010 to 2013, when executions were carried out, the crime rate merely decreased by 20%. Since the crime rate decreased more when the death penalty was not executed, this proves that there is no statistical evidence that the implementation of the death penalty is related to curbing crimes. And it is unreasonable to take away someone's life when we cannot prove that the death penalty fulfills the purpose of its establishment. Thirdly, according to statistics from a review of the death penalty judgments in Taiwan, out of 67 of the death penalty cases between 2000 to 2016, 63% have missing, unidentified, or uninvestigated evidence. The death penalty is irreversible. Thus, the possibilities and consequences of miscarriages of justice is much more serious. Since we cannot eliminate the possibility of wrongly executing innocent people, the death penalty should not be carried out. Lastly, the death penalty is also established on the foundation of retributive justice. Society today discourages an eye for an eye sort of moral. And yet this very moral is incorporated in the very justice system we rely on to maintain social order. Therefore, modifications must be made. The abolition of the most controversial of capital punishments is a first step in this direction. The affirmative would like to propose the following plan. 1. To replace the death penalty with life sentence without parole. 2. To found a program under the Association of Victim Support that would provide counseling sections for victims and their families. And 3. To enhance restorative justice, which is to establish a communication platform between the victims and the convicts that would facilitate voluntary meetings between them to help them achieve closure and further resolve their conflicts. The second affirmative speaker will further elaborate on this plan by giving reasons and advantages to why it should be adopted. I'm now ready for cross-examination. Thank you.
Second negative, cross-examine first affirmative. 2 minutes.
Can you give an example of anyone being wrongfully executed in Taiwan under the current law?
Yes, I can actually.
Who is it?
Well, it wasn't wrongfully. We can't prove that it's wrongfully
So
executed.
you can't prove anyone.
Yes, I can, but like in the
it?
two, they have been executed with questionable evidence because
But
they.
is their innocence proven to this day?
Well, it took 22 years to prove Su Jinpe's innocence. We believe that it will take much longer to prove theirs.
Okay. Do you agree that the government should not ignore the public's opinions?
They should be taken into consideration. However, we believe that often the public's opinions can be made irrationally, and also that the government should do the right thing to do also.
And it is not for you to determine what the right thing is, right?
Well, we believe
Okay,
as
so- do you believe that the prisoners should work in prison?
yes.
Yes. And what if they decide not to work? What measures will you take?
There will be punishments decided by the prison, the law,
So who is going to dish out these punishments?
the staff of the
The
prison.
prison wardens? So there's no judge in this case, right? And how is it a fair punishment for a prison warden to dish out?
Well, there will be objective measures to indicate whether or not the person has fulfilled his or her obligation for labor work, and therefore the prison, if they do not meet these,
What are your objectives? Like, what is your standards?
if they do not fill their obligations,
And
then
what privileges will you determine? What privileges will you take from them if they do not cooperate?
perhaps we will make them do more labor work, or
So you have not thought this through?
yes, we have. Yeah.
Okay. You talk about the crime rates decreasing from 2006 to 2009.
Thank you.
First negative on public speech. 4 minutes.
Good afternoon, honorable judges and distinguished debaters. First of all, I would like to start with pointing out some of the flaws of the affirmative plan. First of all, they mentioned that they are going to work in the prison. However, they couldn't provide any concrete evidence that how they could make the such violent criminals cooperate. They said there are going to be punishment, but they didn't say what kind of punishment, which means that they did not think their plan through. And also, okay, so next let us pay attention to the position of Taiwan towards death penalty. According to the latest opinion poll conducted in 2015, around 82% of the public are against the abolishment of the death penalty. This result indicates that the majority of people in Taiwan are neither willing nor ready to abolish death penalty. Since Taiwan is a democratic country, the majority of people's opinion should not be ignored. Also, furthermore, to decide whether we should abolish the death penalty or not, we should always put our cultural difference into consideration. In fact, aside from opinions polls, most of the developed countries in Asia, such as Japan and Singapore, still preserve the option of death penalty. This fact indicates that the ethnic values of the Asian people are more suitable to the system of death penalty in comparison with other European countries. Also, in the opinion poll we mentioned before, over 85% of the public believe that the death penalty helps deter crime. This proves that the fear of being sentenced to death still remains in Taiwanese mentality. The affirmative tried to prove that the death penalty has deterrent effect by comparing the crime rate. However, we would like to point out that their evidence is flawed because they did not eliminate other factors of the comparison, such as the social economy or unemployment rate or like economic recession and so on. And while they have no evidence to prove that there aren't deterrents, we have evidence to prove that. According to a study done by Emory University, capital crimes has a strong deterrent effect. Each execution results in 18 fewer murders. The study was conducted with extreme discretion, using exaggerated data to allow us to capture demographic, economic, and jurisdictional differences among U.S. countries. It also uses panel data analysis to avoid judicial and law enforcement variables. Also, the affirmative mentioned the problem of miscarriage. And I will point out that the judicial system nowadays is fairly intact and extremely careful when it comes to death penalty cases. In these cases, concrete evidence is required, and convicts sentenced to death row have an average of 10 years span between sentencing and execution. The affirmative failed to provide any cases in Taiwan in which the innocent people were executed by normal judicial system under the current criminal code of the Republic of China. This means that our judicial system is fairly intact. Plus, we would also like to point out that the problem of miscarriage is quite irrelevant to today's topic, since even if there really is a possibility of miscarriage, abolishing the death penalty won't solve the problem. Some may claim that the death penalty is taking revenge, which is an eye-for-an-eye policy. However, the judgment is made by an unbiased third party, which is very different from taking revenge. Also, not only those who commit murder could be sentenced to death. People who commit crimes such as hijacking, carrying, or selling drugs will also be sentenced to death. Therefore, the existence of the death penalty certainly does not equal to an eye for an eye. In conclusion,